myself again.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. And in the words of De La Soul, 3 is the magic number. The 3 Amigos are back. Myself, Mitch and Steve Hasty are taking you into the weekend. Looking ahead to Crystal Palace away, of course. Also with all your regular features, Tweet of the Week, Toon Stato, Toon Tipster, Toon Lookalikey, and the day I met, not forgetting Troll of the Week. But lads, welcome. It's Friday. Mitch will be on the drink. I've already seen Steve Hasty today. How's things, Mitch? How have you been after another case of the week that was and the departure of Steve Bruce?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you the thing that's got me baffled is everybody who's very, very keen to rewrite history and write a certain narrative about this. Let's be utterly clear. The only reason we've gone on about this man and wanted him out from his position is his record. That's it. There's other things that underlie that. His inability to communicate with a fan base effectively without feeling like we're being belittled or condescended at. We're aware of certain things behind the scenes that rattled him and some of the things that he came out with. But you take all that away, his record, and in particular his start of this season. Watford been their manager. He got them promoted within 90-odd points last season. They're 6 games into the new season. This isn't good enough. And they were above us in the table. We've got no wins in 7, and at times have looked absolutely dreadful. And that's the only reason Steve Bruce should not have been there. Bring discussions about the next level and all of that in when we talk about, post-takeover. But, even it's quite clear to me now with some of the things that have happened in the last week. When we were aware that Eddie Howe was in talking, he was talking to Charlie and Ashley as a plan B if the takeover didn't happen. I'm quite convinced about that now. Because within 4 days of his return flight being cancelled, the takeover is announced. And so it was on Ashley and Charlie's mind as sort of where we're going with this man and what we're going to do. Because the key matter is now, as it was then, preserving Premier League status, because the most Newcastle United thing in the world to do would be to get the takeover sorted and get ourselves bloody relegated, which would be the biggest nonsense of the lot. So I think we've got to be clear about that. And we're seeing this rewritten narrative, things that have happened at other clubs being attributed to us. The most we've done is made our voices heard in the stadium once it could be heard. And prior to that, the only way we could be heard was on social media. And that's all that's happened. There's nothing being thrown at him. No coins being chucked at him. He's not needed police escorts anywhere like he did down the road. None of that. But some of that's now being attributed to us and hung on us. And I'll also start with an apology to my mates who support Arsenal, who I've been having a go at about them saying they want Arteta out. I tell you what, that statement Arteta has made this weekend, if that's the kind of trait he's running out to the Arsenal fans week in, week out, I'm sorry, lads, get rid of him. You're absolutely right. To say he's one of the most significant English managers in the last, 100 years or whatever, fuck out off. He's not. And there seems to be a real sort of gathering of the troops, people, his mates in the media. There's a clique that seems to be there, and I'll include the two nuggets we've got out over in this part of the world commentating on it, who are rallying around behind him and making him something that he's not. He's really, really not.
Yeah, Steve, I mean, there is this narrative. There has been this narrative. You and I were, of course, down at Centurion today. I was lucky enough to be invited down to do a live talk sport show with Jim White, Simon Jordan, Craig Hope, Sir John Hall and John Beresford. And on that programme, once again, Simon was defending Steve Bruce. And it is that narrative, isn't it? It's and I've got to be honest, we didn't get time to question Simon on his narrative, and I didn't feel it was the right time to do it because we were talking about Newcastle's takeover, and I didn't want to start getting into Crystal Palace's affairs. But he seems to think he's got some divine right to talk about Steve Bruce in a particular way because he was his boss, and because he put him in his place, and because he made him look like a fool. And I was thinking, this is all a bit bizarre. You know, is that why you've stood up for him? Is that why you've stuck up for him? He seems to have a real bee in his bonnet about Craig Hope. Craig's just told the truth. And ultimately, Steve Bruce is like any other manager. You fall on your sword if the results go against you. And there's no doubt about it. The results have been absolutely horrendous. If you take away the amazing run with Joe Willock scoring those goals, Newcastle United's form under Steve Bruce over the last 12 months has been nothing short of awful. And plenty of managers would have been sat before him. So, getting back to it, I mean, Bruce, no surprise to see him go. But I guess it's just a surprise to see the media sticking up for him as they are.
That's right. What was the headline? Nice guy in shock, horror, loss, job, or inverted commas, or words joined into that. That's the way it's been. This narrative that they're painting, that a nice man has lost his job. A nice man in football has lost his job. What we had, 7 wins in 38. I think it was something like 28 points that we would have got in total out of those 38 games. That's 38 games as a season. That's relegation, and it's not just relegation, but it's relegation. Not even hanging on by your fingernails. This is like a dropping by the stone relegation form that he's subjected the team to. It is strange, the whole narrative that's built up about him over the last few weeks. The friends in the media, as you say, that, you know, somebody put on Twitter, there must be an unwritten rule in the League Managers Association that you never ever slag off a manager, except when you've been beaten, except when the result hasn't gone your way, except when you feel as though you've been hard done to because you're one of the top 6 and you refuse to shake hands with the opposition manager, etc., etc. That's the way that it seems to be. It's a weird world of football management. To call it a clique it would be over-egging what a clique is. This is craziness that I've been watching in the narrative over, certainly since Wednesday when he lost his job. And let's face it, it was the most well-known story in football that he's inevitably, as soon as the title happened, he was at some point going to lose his job. And it's like they've all been rehearsing it. It's just really, really strange, Steve. And I think from a Newcastle fan's point of view, and I'm speaking for myself here, I'm sitting listening to it all, and I'm thinking, do they not know Newcastle United? Do they not know what's been going on? Have they never crossed the Tyne Bridge and spent time in the city and listened to fans in pubs now that we can get back into them? Are they not following on social media where the one common denominator out of all of this is the shocking performances that we've been putting in under Steve Bruce? That's the whole top. That's why he's lost his job. If we'd been top of the league, or if we'd been in the top 5 or top 10 even, then the pressure wouldn't have been on him. The pressure then would not be on the owners to try and find a replacement for him. You know, they wouldn't have been dropping Jones into, you know, you've got 2 games because we've got to make our mind up. This has all come as a bit of a shock to us type of mentality. You know, that's the thing. If the performances had been good, he'd still be in a job, and he might even be in with a chance of going, you can see me through to the end of the season and beyond. Who knows? You know, an English manager, money to burn, you know, a transfer window coming up in January, and he's got you sitting in a decent position. But no. We're sitting 19th in the league, for God's sake, without a win in 8 games. That's why you've lost your job, Steve. No, not because people have been calling your names. That's it.
It's been a common running thing, I think, this week. If you listen to everybody from whichever podcast or whichever fans organisation, Alex Hurst from the Trust has done a few interviews this week, and a few other guys have given opinions to the media, and all of them are doing the same thing. Either having to interject in the middle of a question to put somebody right, or to start an answer by giving what the reality is, not the narrative that somebody wants to create. And I don't understand why we've got this different attitude. Is it about Steve Bruce? Is it about Newcastle United? Is it about the fact that our owners are now Saudi? Or is it a combination of all of the above? And that there seems to be this drive to create this narrative about the sacking of Steve Bruce. We knew last week we had it in writing from somebody who pretty much knew the score that he would do Spurs, and that was it, and that was agreed. So if we knew that, other people knew that as well. And so it sounds like they've had a good 10 days to ramp up what they were going to write and get a narrative written that suits the press. And again, is a nice little pop at us as a fan base, because we're A, an easy target because of the lazy journalism and the stereotypes, and B, we're now actually asked to be being the sort of the moral arbiters of football as well at the same time. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's tough for anybody going in front of the media to actually have to stop people and say, no, well, hang on, can we talk about this properly now? Because that's what everybody's having to do from what I've seen and heard this week.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, it's been a bizarre week for media. We've had some bizarre weeks, months, years over, with Newcastle United. But this is the weirdest situation we've ever been in, especially with this takeover. If we're not getting attacked for the Saudis buying the club, we're getting attacked for what we wore at the match. If we're not getting attacked for that, we're getting attacked for giving Steve Bruce a hard time. And it just seems to be, let's just pick on Newcastle United supporters this week. And it is getting to some people, Let's focus on the football though for now. Graham Jones, you've mentioned him already, lads, and he was in front of the media today. I've got to be honest, it's the first time I actually listened to a press conference in recent weeks. It's been so painful. My ears have been bleeding at times listening to Steve Bruce and listening to it, because in essence, we can all guess what Steve Bruce is going to say when he was sitting in the manager's hot seat. That the opposition are good. It's a difficult place to go. It's going to be a tough game, but we've been preparing this week. We've done, that's it, on repeat over and over again. And then afterwards, we made some pretty basic mistakes. We need to learn, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's literally been like listening to a 7-inch single on repeat over and over again. But Graham Jones today, in a nutshell, going through a few of his highlights, he said, the one thing I can say to you is that over the last 3 days, every single player, and we've had 20 players plus goalkeepers, has had the same experience tactically, both off and on the ball. So whatever side I decide to go with tomorrow, they'll all be ready. They all know their jobs. Back to the preparation thing. That's where my focus has been this week. He also talked about speaking to Amanda and Mirdad. He said, I spoke to the owners on Wednesday morning and I've been asked to take it on an interim basis for 2 games, Palace and Chelsea at home. So I will prepare for that. He talked about ambition. He said, my ambition is to do my best for my football club. I love that. I came here as a 4-year-old watching Supermac. I was a fan in the Gallagher end watching the Keegan era. I know the culture of the club. Now, I thought that was a really, really key line and a clever line. Okay, hopefully he came up with that himself, not given to him, but that was good. Think about the area and how I was brought up. Hard work, honesty, and fight for every situation. That represents the Northeast and the Geordies. That is a great starting place for a new manager. He then went on to say, my motivation for Newcastle United is different than it's been for any of my former employers. I'm only interested in trying to get results and having standards that are really, really high. I've got a huge emotional and personal involvement. He then recouped on his supporting life, I guess, by saying that he went to his first game, aged 4 in 74-75 with his dad to watch Supermac, and I was hooked. Then later in life, he said, we were on holiday, a family holiday at Haggerston Castle, and we had to pack our bags up early and drive home to Newcastle to celebrate Kevin Keegan's signing. He finished off by saying that in the end, hopefully we want to win something, because I'm 51 now, and in my era, we haven't won anything. We have hope now with the takeover. I thought that if that hasn't been written for him, and that came from the heart, and it did feel as if it had come from the heart, well done. And I've been banging on for the last few weeks when we've been talking about potential replacements for Steve Bruce, and now we're looking at actual replacements, Mitch. I've said you need somebody who's got, an understanding of the area and gets the club, gets the supporters. Graham Jones has just basically took the new manager's speech away from him, because that's exactly what I want to hear from an incoming manager.
Nice job pitch for a new manager looking for an assistant, isn't it?
I thought it was.
And I tell you what, I don't think it was written, because I don't know anybody in football who could learn a load of lines like that and deliver them so well without going, every 2 seconds. I think that is absolutely from the heart. And it came across so very, very well. And it's the kind of thing we as fans want to hear. And this is kind of what I bang on about when I talk about it, looking at the bigger picture, the structure of the club, and having people in certain places that understand the culture. The only culture club Steve Bruce knows is the ones that sings "Karma Bloody Chameleon," and that's it. He's got no idea really. His involvement with Newcastle United has been superficial throughout his playing career, and therefore I don't think he does and ever did really understand the basic culture, what should be going on and what is demanded, because he was very happy to almost perpetuate that lazy, over expectation, demanding fan base. Jones has absolutely nailed it. And whether it's an audition or just something to rally everybody around, I don't care. It came across superbly well. It's the kind of thing I want to hear as well. He's the same era as me. He's the same vintage as me. It's exactly the kind of thing that pours out of my heart sometimes. You think, for the lack of just giving it a go on some occasions, what could we have done? And it feels like now we've got a platform that we can build from. But the key is we just have to make sure we secure our survival this season to exploit that. And that's part of the ongoing dilemma, I guess, during the decisions being made about appointing a manager. But Jones, I think, certainly comes across to the point where he deserves involvement within that setup somewhere down the line going forward for me.
He talked about that as well. Talked about, potentially his job and how they saw his future. So it does sound as if it's long term, and that is only going to be a positive for us, I think, moving forward, depending on who comes in. Yeah, I mean, impressive first press conference, Steve, and as I say, refreshing just to hear somebody waxing lyrical about his time, and there wasn't that, and it was quite clear just watching the sound bites that we've seen that there wasn't the tenseness. That's gone now, and hopefully that's gone in the dressing room, because we know. We've commented on it many times over the last couple of years. We know that there's been tensions between Steve Bruce and certain players in that dressing room. And all of that goes now. All of that disappears. With Steve Bruce going out the door, that disappears. Everyone's on a clean slate. Everyone's, hopefully going to be chomping at the bit to impress and get a game, waiting for the announcement of who the new manager is or the head coach. And, if a director of football comes in, him as well. But whatever, they're waiting for these changes. It's going to be a more positive dressing room, and hopefully a chance to show what they can do tomorrow in front of potential new managers watching from afar, or who knows, even watching in the stand.
Exactly, Steve. I picked up the remote control thinking I was watching a podcast, and I was trying to hit the like button because it was a bit like that, because it was what you got the impression you were hearing a supporter talking about his love of the football club, and that's what we hear on podcasts time and time again, whether it's this podcast or any other podcast. We hear fans talking, because that's why they do podcasts, to talk about how much they love the football club and get that out there. And it was very much like that. I mean, we talk about tension among the playing squad. I'm sure that happens in all dressing rooms, and I think some of the tension comes from frustration, some of it comes from not being selected, some of it comes from the fact that they feel as though either they're not keen on the tactics, they're not keen on the way that the team's lined up, they're not getting an opportunity themselves. It's frustration that builds up, and that's what happens. And that happens, and it does happen in not just towards the manager, but towards teammates, because they're all professionals. They all want to be out there. There's only 11 players plus whoever gets selected on the bench, and even then, some players are just left on the bench and never ever get a look in. Some players disappear. There's one player who seems to have disappeared. I don't know whether it's me, but did we get rid of Emil Kraft? Did he disappear? Has he gone somewhere? I've never seen his name anywhere. I've never seen him mentioned. And there's an example of a player who must be thinking, I was playing at the start of the season, then I was on the bench, and now I don't know whether he's injured. I've never heard his name mentioned. And then there'll be other players who, for a long period of time, like Fraser, not getting a run in, turning up for Scotland, but not getting a run in, and then you've got Shelby who comes on and he's automatically brought on as a sub, and then he gets sent off, and that must frustrate members of the squad as well. So all good managers have to manage that, and we're seeing at Man City with the situation with Sterling, where he comes out and he's complaining because he's not getting a game. Can you imagine not getting a game for Man City compared to not getting a game for Newcastle? That's like it's talking cheese, but it's the same frustration because they're professionals, But great to hear.
And some of that frustration is good frustration. It's like the fracas between Hayden and Lascelles at the end of the game last week. I don't want my players going off the pitch happy to be beaten. I want them to be angry. I want them to be wound up. But then they've also then got nobody necessarily to take it out on, so they take it out on each other. Hayden laying the nut on Lascelles is an interesting concept, I've got to say. But and certainly that. There are certain things I don't want to see. I don't want to see everybody happy, clapping each other on the back. Oh, well, we nearly won there. This was only 1 goal defeat. I want them to go off unhappy. Yeah. And maybe now we've got a different focal point. We've got a point whereby, because let's be honest, on the touchline, who's the person that they've been going to anyway? Is Jones. And Bruce has been standing there like an island on his own. It frustrated me even on Sunday, when we had the delay in the game. Nuno's got his team around him and he's animated and he's directing. Our lot are in pockets of 3s and 4. Those pockets of 3s and 4 going to talk to Jones, and Bruce was wandering around again. And so this could potentially change the impetus in many ways if Jones has been effectively trying to act as a surrogate anyway, but he's had the shadow of Bruce over him, and now he's got carte blanche to do his thing. That could see that group of players turn into a slightly different beast in anyway overnight, let's see.
Yeah. Right. Lots of people talking about Martin Samuel's article. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to give him any airtime really, other than to say it was awful. But on the polar opposite, there was Craig Hope on the other side, which I thought was fantastic. It was great to see Craig giving the yin to Samuel's yang. But yeah, it just sums up the media this week. I've just seen a message from somebody. I must say, never be ashamed, Darren, to come over. Darren said he was in Centurion and he's too shy to pop over and say hello. Always come over, mate. We're always, always happy to speak to people and have a chat, mate. So come over next time. And the bar was open. Somebody saying, was the bar open? There it is. Julie says, was the bar open as usual or closed up to protect Simon Jordan from Newcastle fans? It was actually open. There was about 50 people in, probably at the at the peak. Apparently there was an exchange of words between him and a fan towards the end after the show, but it was all fairly light-hearted, and to be honest, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great to see Sir John looking well for a man in his late 80s. He's certainly got a spring in his step still, and Simon Jordan is just Simon Jordan. He gets paid to do a job. I keep saying that, but and he does it well. 1.3 million listeners this morning, apparently. So that's a lot of coverage on Newcastle United, and whether people like it or not, it's good. It gets our club out there, and I think everybody who was selected did a great job in getting their points across. Mitch, I'm going to ask you. We got a message from somebody who couldn't watch the show live. Hunter, Dan Hunt. He says, where do you lads stand on the stadium naming rights? Now, this was a story that was broken in the Daily Mail by Craig Hope this morning. Now, we all know, we've been there, done it, got the T-shirt with Ashley. He just changed the name of the ground, not once, but twice. First of all, he called it Stadium at St James's Park, which, was a very subtle move, but people didn't really go up in arms about that. But then next time he changed the name to the Sports Direct Arena, and all hell broke loose, including protests, which we all know about, and people marching on the ground, us included, and it became a wholesale mess. And that was probably one of his biggest mistakes, changing the name of the ground completely. Naming rights is different. The owners have put it out there that it's a potential revenue stream, and I guess, like Craig Hope said this morning, that he thinks that the new owners will be looking at the reaction with interest. From supporters. Communication is what I said this morning on TalkSport is key. As long as you speak to the supporters and you ask them, what do you think? This is what it could be. What do you think? I don't think there'll be, people burning effigies up at the ground. I think people will be quite happy with it if it's going to bring in a lot of money. We're just going to get invested in the right areas.
Communication and consultation. We've had more communication from the NUFC Twitter account this week than we have in probably about 12 and a half years.
Yeah.
Consultation and communication is what it's all about. Our fan base is clever enough to know, particularly after the week we've had with secret meetings and being excluded from them and them passing laws on a short-term basis, fully intended to cripple any ideas that Saudi may have. That stadium naming rights is one way to develop an income that the fans don't have to fund, that the owner doesn't have to fund, that helps with FFP, helps with spending power. My fan base knows this. And they're not stupid. And they get it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that's been Ashley's problem throughout his reign, really, for me. Sometimes some of the things he wanted to do were actually quite clever, but it was the way it was done, like a sledgehammer in the face, usually during an international window when we couldn't make my mouths go at a game, and in the hope that everything would die down by the time we were back in the ground. This is different. This is very different. This is somebody coming in and saying, look, here's one way we could get income. It could be that. I think it depends on the amount. I know Spurs tried to get 25 million for theirs and failed miserably. If it's 15 million, I've seen one interesting comment that says, look, if that stops me buying one more make weight in the squad, then fine, I don't want to just keep the name St James's Park. I kind of get that. I think you've got to look at the bigger picture. I set off a little poll on my Twitter account earlier today. I checked it just before we came on. I gave 4 options, which was basically, 1 was yes, show me the money. 2 was yes, but with considerations and thought. 3 was absolutely not, and option 4 was don't care. And rounding up, we had 20% were just saying show us the money, which I thought was surprisingly high, actually. 60% were in favour, but provided there was proper consultation. Then 50% absolutely not, which I think that's low. I was expected more than that personally, and 5% just didn't give the monkeys. Which it's an interesting fence to sit on that one. I get it. I think it's probably going to be inevitability. It'll be shared with St James's Park, I think. So everybody can still call it St James's Park, and we would anyway. It really doesn't matter.
Did you ask Toon Pools if you could do this pool, by the way?
Oh yes, I give him a little nod in the original tweet just to make sure nobody wants the pool Meister after them. That's what bloody sure. Even this far away, tentacles and all that. So yeah, I just thought it was an interesting straw poll. It had just over 1,000 votes on it, which isn't bad for a few hours running a poll. And so it gives us an idea about where the mindset of the fan base is. I think the takeover has changed some of that mindset totally. You're going to tell me that the last week, seeing what the Premier League have done, and nothing says anti-competitive cartel behaviour like a little bit of anti-competitive cartel behaviour, and so maybe as a fan base we're at absolutely a point where we're like, right, just bring it on, chuck it out with. We want to go for you. We want to show you why you're quaking in your boots, because they bloody all are. And if that's one way to get around it, because I'm sure we'll come on to this later, I'm damn sure Saudis are going to find fantastic ways around all of this. And there's one springs to my mind immediately. And so if this is another way to get more income in, to make FFP easier, to make life easier for the club, to make flexing the financial muscle easier going forward, do it. Absolutely do it. But I think they'll be done with consideration and respect. And that's absolutely what Mike Ashley refused to do. Steve,
communication lets you down. I think that was the theme tune, I guess, for Mike Ashley. But the new owners have already grasped how to communicate, and using Twitter, using the website, using emails, using the manager and comms team to get stuff out there. Just keep the fans updated. That's a major part of running a football club. Let them know what's happening. Let them know what's going on. Getting ex-players in, like they did pre-match last week, and allowing them to be mixing in the director's box and speaking to other people. I mean, Malcolm, he was on the show last night, and he told us about, meeting the chairman and meeting Amanda and meeting me, Dad. And he said it was amazing. He says, I've never, in years had that kind of conversation with the chairman of Newcastle United. He says, it's amazing. And that's what you want to hear. And it's just it is a feel-good factor, but the ground, it's sacrilege to us. It's always going to be St. James's Park, but naming right, Steve, it's one of those situations where if you communicate it properly, explain what it's the reasoning behind it, and come up with a reasonable suggestion and solution, fans aren't going to be unreasonable, I don't think.
Exactly. These guys aren't going to turn up at 7:30 in the morning with a crowbar and rip St. James's Park off the wall, are they? Which is exactly what Ashley did.
That's what Derek did,
Yeah, that's what he did. And I always, despite everything, I always felt sorry for the two lads who were given the job, because they were getting pelters. Their companies were being searched out, etc., etc. Yeah, you're absolutely right, lads. It's about how you communicate. It's how you build that level of trust, because there's a key word as well. We are now in a situation where we trust implicitly that these people who have taken on the football club are going to do the right thing. And communication is going to play an awfully big part of that. And we have seen examples of it. There is the other side of it, which is what's happened during the week, what happens with the secret meetings that have been taking place, what's happening with the votes, what's happening when Newcastle are sending Lee Charnley as a continuity expert into meetings with the Premier League, and we're getting voted on an 18-2, with one of the two being an abstention from Manchester City for obvious reasons. That people are acting as a cartel, and they're ganging up. So they're going to have to be clever. They're going to have to be sharp. They're going to have to be on their mettle, because there's stuff going on in the background inside the APL that is trying to destroy this takeover in terms of what it can bring to Newcastle United. We've got the owners in place, but now how can we stifle every single move they take? And that's why they're going to be clever. Now, you mentioned people might say there'll be backdoor ideas and backdoor thinking, but what you've also got to remember is that the PIF always said that if they were going to buy Newcastle United, they would come in through the front door. It took them 20 months to get in through that front door. They could have come up with all sorts of creative reasoning behind the structure of the football club. They could have got pseudo companies in. They could have done whatever they liked. But no, they did everything by the book. Every single thing by the book, in terms of making sure that they could walk in as the PIF, the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, alongside the Rubens on one side and PCP on the other, and sit in that director's box with the chair of, or the chief executive of PIF on Sunday. That's what they did. That was the win. That was the win that they were always going to be. That was the end game for them in terms of the takeover, and they got it. So they're not gonna go out with something that's creative. They're going to fight this. They're going to fight it tooth and nail. They're going to make sure that nobody's going to pull the wool over their eyes. Nobody's going to play any backdoor tricks on them. That's not going to happen. And they'll bring all the legal powers and everything, and they'll be watching this like a hawk. Don't you believe it? And that's where the whole creativity you talk about. That's why we've got to go along with this. We've got to understand the pressures that are being born on one side, and we've got to be aware as Newcastle fans that we are now in a totally different league, if you like, in terms of who's ganging up on us, who's criticising us, why the press are doing it, and just be very sensible about it. And I know that the club will be sensible about it. I know the new owners will be sensible about it. And if it comes to a name change, then you can certainly guarantee that it's being done with the best interests of Newcastle United at heart. And I'm sure Newcastle fans embrace it. There'll be some who don't like it. There'll be some who will not be keen on it. But compared to where we were when Mike Ashley, as I said, arranged for that name to be crowbarred off, and where we're heading, that's where it pulls apart in the situation. And I think that's why it'll be accepted. I think that's why they'll communicate it right, and fans will accept it because it's in the best football club.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, plenty to talk about. Keep your points coming in. It's always interesting to hear from you. It is you and your show. 803 watching already tonight. Thank you very much. It always amazes us how many we get. We never take it for granted. Thanks very much. And I think it's a good time to give the sponsors a shout out because we always do. So we'll get that out of the way. Big thank you, as always, to Spider VPN. Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of your search list. They will help you protect your computer. Stop anyone nicking your password, your photos, you name it. Spider VPN are the boys to trust. Google Spider VPN tonight. Also, a big thank you to skipsandbins.com. He's getting ready for Halloween, Sir Bobby. Looking very scary there. And there's somebody in the skipping bin as well. I don't know who that is, but big thank you to Scott, as always, for keeping us up to date with the graphics. Skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. Also, L&G Family Funeral Directors, big thank you to you. 0191 389 7245. And Ujona QTechShop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle. Also, big shout out to Jab Signature, who make all of our flyers. If you're a first-time visitor to the channel, please subscribe. It is free. We do 7 shows a week, and we sometimes do the odd extra as well. Click share to your other social media, such as Twitter and Facebook. Share it to a Newcastle United Facebook group on Facebook. That can help us build our numbers. Hit the thumb up to like the video. That's free and does us a big favor. And click share, as I say, to share it with other social medias. Drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to get a comment on screen. We're also available as a podcast. Usually goes up within 24 hours. So we're available on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. We've got some events coming up over the next few weeks in no particular order. The 19th of November, the best-selling event so far, £12 a ticket, goes to the food bank. And Newcastle United legend Supermac and Gibbo will be taking the stage, and we'll have a little bit of entertainment, raffles and auctions and other things going on the night. And a lot of the NUFC Matters crew will be in attendance. Tickets for that, £12. All proceeds going to the food bank. This coming week, though, we've got an evening with Gavin Peacock at the Irish Centre. Tickets for that are £15. He will be launching his book. I'm going to take a few copies of my book along as well on the night for people to buy. But John Gibson will be interviewing Gavin Peacock this coming Friday at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Still time to get tickets for that, £15. And Peter Beardsley will be at the Irish Centre on the 26th of November. And tickets for that are £15 as well. All tickets can be bought at newcastlelegends.com and then click shop into the shop and you can buy your tickets on there. There is an evening with Rob Lee coming up as well in Whitley Bay on Thursday. www.laurelswhitley.co.uk to buy tickets for that. Tickets starting at £15. And another food bank night at bobix.com. You can buy tickets for an evening with myself and Supermac, 9th of December. And that is in Jesmond. Don't forget, the NUFC Fans Food Bank match day virtual bucket is still in operation. You can donate wherever you are in the world to that. NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk. Just drop your money into the virtual bucket and you've still got time to enter the raffle for that watch just by making a donation. News will be coming in due course about our pool competition. People asking which book is your book? It's that one, Every Boy's Dream. It's available on Amazon. Just a book about my life supporting Newcastle United. So you can get that. Could be a good stocking filler. And don't forget as well, we've got this going for the food bank as well. It's a raffle to win a pair of custom-made Peter Beardsley trainers. And they will be in your size and signed by Peter Beardsley. I Am the Renovation have supplied them. And you can enter the raffle. Tickets are £1 each from NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk. Still time tonight as well to bid on our Custodians t-shirt. This is a one-off t-shirt made for the food bank. At Steve Rape is my Twitter handle. Follow me on Twitter and you can make a last-minute bid for that t-shirt. So get your bid in. I'll announce that, if I remember, before the end of the show. So well worth bidding on that. We've made some crazy money on t-shirts. And I think Steve is going to compile the total, and I think we'll probably announce that on our Christmas Eve edition. We'll let you know exactly how much we've raised since we started this show. And I'm looking forward to that because I don't know myself. I've lost count. But fantastic. Great stuff. Don't forget as well, we have got a website. And if you want to pop on there, we've got all kinds of stuff for Christmas. NUFC Matters t-shirts, including this wonderful Ryan Taylor over-the-wall t-shirt, but NUFCmatters.com. If you haven't been on, have a look already. John from QTech runs the website, and it's well worth popping on and having a look. Okay, regular viewers will know we have regular segments, and we're going to start off with Tweet of the Week. Tweet of the week, and there's been some absolute humdingers this week. Me and Steve Hasty and Mitch tend to plough our way through the wonders of the interweb and have a look at the Twitter world and the Twitter sphere, and there's been some absolute belters this week. So in no particular order, we'll start with this one from Smithy. Steve?
Yes, yeah, got my Halloween costume already sorted this year. I'm going as the Newcastle United takeover. As it appears, everyone is scared of it.
Brilliant.
I know that was great. Yeah, there is some great ones. I did like Stu Penman. He's often known for his tact. Thank you for F all, Mr. Bruce. Goodbye.
Don't hold back.
Straight to the point, Stu, lad. Straight to the point. This one from top journalist John Richardson, Steve.
Yes, and a top Newcastle supporter as well. Joe Linton has to be the worst ever player to have put on an NUFC shirt. And believe me, I've seen some bad ones over the years. Whoever recommended him should be sacked. Might as well have chucked £40 million into the time.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to
Another one who hasn't held back. Well done, John.
I don't think you get an argument off Malcolm MacDonald on a Thursday.
No. Oh, me dad. Jeez.
There were so many good ones came out over the course of this week, and obviously some pre-Bruce getting sacked. This one was from Magpie77. Breaking news: Premier League clubs have voted to ban Newcastle from sacking Steve Bruce.
And that's not the only one that was like that. There were dozens, weren't there?
Yeah, I did like that one. Ben Jacobs, I've done a fantastic interview with Ben, which we'll be broadcasting on Wednesday. It's half term next week. I'm having a couple of days off, so I've done a couple of pre-records for people. But Ben got this one out.
Yes, I kind of want Eddie Howe to get the NUFC job, if only for the hashtag how are the lads. Yes, okay, Ben. Yep, okay, we'll give you that one.
I did like. He's becoming an adopted Newcastle fan, Ben, I think. This one was from Frank Chipperfield. I never know how to take big Frank Chipper. He's been a constant on my timeline, and I do enjoy some of the stuff he puts out. This was after Newcastle United under 23s went to the Stadium of Light, managed to record a win. He put, I switched sides, and NUFC start winning derby games, one in a row. He put. I did like that. This one, Steve, was this was quite funny as well. Yes. You sent me this one, I think.
I did, yeah, and I thought that it was an old one from Khloe Kardashian, who, as you can see in the photograph, my neck, my back, and they're asking you to finish off the line. And Madgy NUFC's just said, manager needs the sack.
Brilliant. It's good stuff. See, he might have gone, Bruce, but these still were quite funny. Paddy Power had this up at the ground last week, which everybody laughed at, but it was quickly deflated and taken away because I don't think they asked for permission. But I thought that was just worth putting up there because a lot of people did miss it last week.
Yeah, I think it was on the other side of the road, wasn't it, at first? And they got shifted and then they put it up there. And then, of course, anyone who was on Strawberry Place knows how busy it was on Sunday. But yeah, this is Darren Daz Curry. Turn Sky on these days as there's only one United and it's not the Manx. That's something that's been getting up the noses of plenty of us over the years, hasn't it, Darren? This United saga. But yeah, you're absolutely spot on, mate, there.
Yeah, okay. This one from Des. I had to laugh. He goes, at least Luke Edwards hasn't got inside information anymore and has to do some actual work for a change. That was a little dig at the fact that Luke Edwards, of course, got the exclusive with Brucey. And we did tell you that there was somebody a little bit closer to Brucey than others. And I think we all know who that was now. But look, Luke, he's got his paper, he's got to do his job, and fair play to him for getting the exclusive with Brucey. Be interesting to see what tact he takes now moving forward. The Echo of Glory. Now this was one that I picked out, Steve. Calling all Spurs fans, Newcastle away. We're buying fake cash from Amazon. Sacks of it to take up to St James's Park. We intend to throw the money into the air so it falls like confetti. Kick off, full time, and every goal. So Panda replied, have you considered how high up the away end is at St James's Park? By the time the cash lands on the ground, we'll be champions of Europe. I thought that was really good. Okay, last two. This one, Steve.
Yes, this is Daryl Razzle Dazzle 26. Just heard that after being sacked by NUFC, Steve Bruce left in a fit of rage and sped off doing 100 mile an hour down the A1. He's finally managed to get 3 points.
Brilliant.
Classic. And the winner this week was Gary Lineker. Tweeted, Newcastle have fired Steve Bruce. I never saw that coming. Specsavers replied, maybe we can help.
That is absolutely superb. And having a pal who manages a Specsavers franchise, absolutely brilliant. I contacted him and he was howling with it as well. I congratulated for him. And you know what? He took the praise for it as well. He took the glory.
We'll come on to Specs later. Anyway, that was Tweet of the Week. Now, it might not have passed people's notice that there has been a bit of jealousy about the takeover this week, and not as much jealousy as I expected from our nearest and dearest rivals, although it's been that long since we've seen them that I nearly missed this on Twitter. But there was banners, Mitch, and various things posted, and Middlesbrough went with this one. 300 million has bought your club and your morals, and then an expletive, and then our name. And then this one was posted, no blood on our hands, which was at the Sunderland match. Now, I expected a bit of criticism. It did make me chuckle, though, following up in the Middlesbrough Gazette, Mitch, when I saw this, that senior sources said that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia state-owned petrochemical business, SABIC, is close to a proven investment deal which will support thousands of jobs on Teesside following months of discussions with ministers. Really, mate, it's becoming a farce, isn't it? We're being attacked for something which has got nothing to do with us. We just want to see a little bit of hope of our football team. Is this down to jealousy, do you think? Is it as simple as that?
I did find the Borough one quite amusing because I was aware of the 250 million potential investment coming from Saudi. It's a region they've always had links with because of petrochemicals. And because they now own Newcastle United, this is why we've been banging on about regional benefit. And we weren't just talking about in the city centre in Newcastle. We are talking about the entire northeast of England benefits from this and will continue to benefit from it as things pan out, I'm quite sure. And they're always going to strengthen where they've already got links and associations. So, you know what? Yeah, why don't you refuse that then? Everybody who's holding that banner at Borough, if you're going to get a job off this new Saudi investment, make sure you turn it down and be consistent. Because, you know, it's not up to us to be the arbiters of anything. And this, let's go back years. How long have you've been using the word geopolitics on this show? And that once it came to fruition, it would change. And it has changed. It's changed already. We're being asked to be many things as a fan base. And the thing that we're being almost not allowed to be are fans of Newcastle United looking forward to a bright new future. And that doesn't mean we're ignorant. It doesn't mean we're socially unaware of a lot of things that were going on. Well, take, for example, the statement the club put out about wearing regional dress. I mean, I've genuinely got to say, as somebody who's lived in the Middle East for closing on, 9-10 years, I don't know anybody out here who would be offended by that, whether it was a traditional dress or whether it's your mum's tea towel wrapped around your head. They're
Well, it's
genuinely
interesting.
not offended.
It's interesting. I wanted to talk to you about that. So, I mean, somebody mentioned, and I'm, it's a good time to plug this. 9 o'clock tonight, I am going to be joining the Muslim Geordie podcast. 9 o'clock, I'll stick the link out on my social media, and that is going to be one of the topics of conversation. But somebody mentioned to me this week, the club should look at commercialising it, Neil. Maybe he's doing a special headwear for Newcastle United fans.
The problem the club have got, though, is the minute Kick It Out made that statement, they were painted into a horrible corner.
Yeah.
That I think they've come out of very well. I think that statement is fantastic.
I agree.
But I genuinely, somebody who's lived in this region, you ask Stu Penman, you ask Andy in Saudi, you ask Andy and Steve, who works in Saudi most of the time, who I'll be watching the match tomorrow. Not one of them know a local who's offended by that kind of a behaviour. In fact, a lot of them find it very endearing. If you ever go on a desert safari out here, the first thing they want to do is stick you in local dress and have your bloody falcon on your arm. It's difficult, and I get it, and I get there'll be some people who maybe are upset by it. But from my experience, personally, I don't know anybody.
Steve,
but there may be some, and so the club had no choice but to put that statement out. I don't think. But I think while we're having all sorts of chuckle in it, and I think I said on Twitter through the week, there is a fine line. There's a fine line where dressing up like that can be turned into something much more sinister. But I've never seen that, and I've never seen that with our fan base, and I don't think they would. This was high japes. This was people on a high, wanting to, celebrate the release of 14 years of Ashley's reign. And I think they need to be given a little bit of allowance for that. I genuinely think in some places they haven't been given any allowance for that, and I don't think that's fair. Because honestly, I mean, I've played you messages this week sent to me by a patient of mine who is quite an important Saudi, and his thoughts on it all, and that's something a man offended.
Steve, what's your take on this? I mean, we had a brief discussion, and I mean, you actually said something that I'd said on the show earlier this week, which was, this is really no different to when Mirandina signed for Newcastle, and we all rushed out and bought sombreros as kids. I mean, not realizing that sombreros were actually the traditional dress of Mexicans and not Brazilians. But you also mentioned, the same as I mentioned, that it's not so long ago that Graham Carr was trolling the French shores to bring in young talent to play in the Premier League and to sell at a profit for Mike Ashley. And we all had a French day where we even had half and half shirts at one point, half Newcastle and half French, being made by Toffs. So this isn't something new, but there seems to be some kind of they feel it's maybe more racist because it's got that connection with the Muslim fraternity.
Yeah, and you've also got to remember that French Day was initiated by Derek Lambias. It wasn't initiated by fans. It didn't come from a fans group. It didn't come from a supporters trust. It didn't come from a podcast or anything. It came from the chairman of the football club, who said, wouldn't it be great on the Monday that everybody should come dressed with onions and berries? Put a berry on your head, get a string of onions around your neck. We're going to celebrate France. We're going to celebrate the French connection, whatever it was that he wanted to call it, And you're absolutely right. And I think in some aspects, I think the club panicked, and I think they misread the room. I think they were boxed into a corner by an organisation who were speaking from a level of ignorance as well, because I don't think they realised what it was that they were complaining about. I think they saw a headline in a newspaper, they saw a number of people making comment, and they thought that they needed to jump in as well, and that's what they did. And I think when you read the statement that the club made, would rather you didn't, but then it gets hooked up to by, of all things, a pub in town who announced last night, I think it was yesterday or the day, that they don't want fans coming in dressed in Arab garb. This is a pub underneath the Tyne Bridge, by the way, and as though that's going to make any difference to the cultural relations that we have in the city. And this is where the whole thing gets tarnished. This is where again battle lines are drawn. We draw politics into it. We draw, allegations can be made that can't be substantiated, but mud sticks, and this is what I find sort of really disappointing about the whole thing. But you know, I listened to Al Waleed on his show. I've listened to some of the messages that Mitch has sent and some of the conversations he's had. I've spoken to one or two people through my daughter who live in the Middle East, and I'm getting the same sort of message. We think it's fantastic. We feel as though this is us being accepted. It's our football club as well as your football club. We're embracing it together, etc., etc. And they can't see anything wrong with it. But for some reason, we're living in a society now where everybody wants to tell somebody else that what they feel that they're doing wrong, you know, without getting people the opportunity to actually think and debate it properly. It's very much it's very much a black and white, and it is. There's no shades of grey in this, is there? You know, so yeah, Steve, it's one of those things. It's something we're going to have to live with. We're going to have to live with it, you know. And if it's not what we're wearing, it'll be what somebody's saying. It'll be you know, something that's happening on the news. It'll be something political. It'll be something that's happened in the Middle East or in Saudi Arabia, and it's always going to get thrown back at the football club, thrown back at the fans more than anything, specifically because we're a target. We're an easy target. We're going to be a very, very easy target for certain sections, whether it's from other clubs, whether it's from the Premier League themselves, whether it's from organisations that feel as though it makes it a lot easier for them to get on the publicity trail. You know, it's how it's going to be, and we're going to have to grow up. We're going to have to live with it. We're going to have to grow with it. We're going to have to, in some places, ignore it, and in other points, we're going to have to hit it head on and confront it. And you know, we may be wrong in some things as supporters that we do, and if we get things wrong, then we have to accept it. But I don't think that there was any form of malice in any Newcastle fan who wore anything resembling Arab headgear or Arab clothing, either on the Thursday after the takeover or last Sunday. I didn't see anybody who was doing it out of any malice or forethought whatsoever. That's my opinion. And, you know, as I say, Steve, we're going to have to live with this.
Yeah, of course we are. And Jeff says they bought into our footballing culture. That's a great point, Jeff. 100%, mate. 100%. They did. Fantastic. Don't worry, folks. Mitch has just dived out. It isn't a collapse on his phone or whatever. His battery hasn't run out. This was pre-organised. He's just got to do something. So he will be back. So in the meantime, we will go to the day I met. The day I met, where I ask you, the viewer, to send in your photographs of your encounters with former Newcastle United players, managers, or even the tea lady. Get your photos over to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter. Give us a follow. I'll follow you back and we can get those photos over to us. But always enjoy these. Ian Windsor has pretty much got a 1 to 11 here of different players that he's met. So in no particular order, Ian, thank you very much for sending them in. Here is, this is like a journey through Ian's life, I think, as well. Steve Harper, of course, with Ian there. And another goalkeeper, Elliot. And...
oh, double up.
That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ben Arthur there. Is that Eldon Square, by the way? It is, isn't it? It's Eldon Square. It looks like up next to the Percy or something. Yeah, good one.
Yeah.
The Shola Amiobi and the two Amiobi brothers, isn't it?
Yeah,
both
that's
Amiobi.
the only time you see someone taller than Shola is when you see his brother.
Looks like a nightclub, that, Ian. Looks like he's out on the drink. Yeah. Clarkey, of course. Regular contributor to NUFC Matters. Andy Cole.
Oh, nice one.
Down at Headworth Hall, that one. In South Shields.
Yeah, Stephen Taylor.
Stephen Taylor.
Yeah, now of Dubai.
John Beresford, we saw him today down at Centurion. Anybody who was down there would have seen him.
Looking well.
Another Taylor.
Oh, yes, over the wall.
Over the wall, Ryan Taylor there. Gaza.
Oh, nice one. Nice one.
Again, just opportune moment here from Ian. Some absolute belters. And last but by no means least, Cisse.
Happy's. Yes.
So well done, Ian. Thank you for sharing all of those with us. Took us back down memory lane with all of them. There was one which was sent in, which is from a good pal of mine, Danny Coggins, sent us this.
Hey, Danny.
So on the left, we've got Danny Coggins as a Ben in Keegan's arms. And then on the right, we've got Kevin Keegan and Danny reunited. And that's great. He didn't ask him to lift him up, though. I'm a bit disappointed in you, Danny. You could have got him to lift you up for that photograph.
Or vice versa. I'll tell you what, you can tell that's Danny, though, can't you, on the left? Dear me.
He's got he's got his fist up. Definitely.
Nothing changes.
Thanks for that, Danny, mate. I hope you enjoyed your 5 seconds of fame there, mate. And keep them coming in. Ian Windsor, very kind of you to send them in as well. Send them to me at Steve Wraith on Twitter, and we'll try and get them on the show. That is the DMM.
I saw an ex-player today down on Granger Street. I wish I'd taken a photograph with him, then I could have submitted it for next week.
And who was that?
A certain Greek centre-half, Nikos Dabizas, believe it or not.
Oh, very good. Yeah, his son was at university here.
Right, yeah. And there I was walking down in there. You know, when you see someone walking towards you and you go, I recognise that face. Where have I recognised it from? And then as he walks past you, suddenly go, that's Nikos Dabizas. And honestly, I should have taken a photograph and then just submitted the picture for next week, and I guess.
Great stuff. Yeah, he's always in the city. Always good to bump into Nikos, and what a top man. Never forget that celebration after he scored down at the old Roker Park. We've got a little effort here for the food bank now. Most of you who follow us on social media will know that during lockdown I did a lot of walking backwards and forwards to Newcastle. Plenty of photos of the Tyne Bridge. I did so with a good friend of mine, Dave Beanie, and another friend of mine, Sarah Jane Easton, and we would often be out. We always had our phones, often got very very arty with some shots, but we have produced this. So this is a debut. I want to thank John from qtechshop.co.uk for producing this, and hopefully the technology allows us to show you this year's NUFC Matters calendar. So here we go. That was the three of us at the start. There's February, March, April, St James's Park. Good one by Dave. That was mine of the Stades in Dunstan.
Wow.
Beanie's down in the coast. Sarah's of the Millennium Bridge opening. Sarah's of the Sage. Dave's of the Tyne Bridge. That shows you how quiet it was. Sarah's of the high level. Mine of Newcastle, Sheffield United at home, the first game back. And then December finishes up with Dave. The calendar's available, $11.99. Available now from nufcmatters.com. All proceeds going to the food bank. So if you want a calendar, get yourself onto the website. All proceeds. Obviously, there's a little bit of costing to making it, but not a great deal. Get your orders in now. Fantastic that we managed to take so many photographs. And it's great that we've been able to put them to good use. But those photographs are going, as I say, to the food, that calendar. All proceeds going to the food bank, Steve.
I'm just disappointed. I'm just disappointed those ones I sent in and made me budgie smugglers didn't make it.
That's a completely separate calendar, that.
Yeah. Brilliant, though. I mean,
so sorry to disappear, and by the way, I've been kicked out of the balcony for making too much noise. So
no problem. Vanessa Armstrong has put a request in to say, can we please say hello to our dad, Dave? He's a massive fan, and he's just got out of hospital. Dave, I hope everything's okay, mate. Never good to hear anybody who's been in hospital, but I send on my best wishes to you, Dave, and thanks for all your support, mate. I'm sure the lads will want to have a say as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Glad that you're out of hospital. That tells us that you're obviously doing much better than you were previous. All the best, mate. Hope everything goes all right and you're doing well. Take care.
All the best, Dave. Hope you're feeling better soon. And thanks for all the support. Appreciate everybody who tunes in. It still blows my mind, to be honest with you. I haven't experienced what you guys have experienced as much being out here. And it just touches me in ways you cannot express. So get well soon, mate, and I hope you're feeling better soon.
Yeah. I hope that suits Vanessa, and I hope your dad hears that. Just want to talk a little bit about the food bank, Stephen. This has come from Mozza. He went, I loved how the Rubens matched Sunday's donation for the food bank. They didn't just match Sundays, though, did they? They've offered to do this for the rest of the season.
That's right, and I mean it's a marvelous gesture. I know that there's people out there who'll go, oh, they can afford it, blah blah blah. This is charitable arm of the Rubens family, and they got in touch with John at the West End Food Bank and said, you know what, we want to hook up with the match day. We want to hook up with NUFC Fans Food Bank, and what we want to do is we want to match whatever you guys collect on the match day. Now, NUFC Food Bank is totally separate from the West End Food Bank, but it plays a big part in the finances of the organisation because it brings steady money in, week out. And the hole that's been left during the whole period of COVID when nobody was going to the match has been massive, because the way that Newcastle fans had rallied round and supporting the people in the city who need it has been remarkable over the last 5 years since Bill, Colin, and myself took up that embryonic idea of doing it for one game. But when Jamie Rubens' charitable arm got in touch and said we want to match whatever the match day collection is, we thought, wow, that's an amazing gesture, absolutely brilliant. But we had no idea what we're going to collect on match days. Sometimes it's 1,500 quid, sometimes it might be 2.5. We don't know until the Monday, because all the buckets get taken up to the offices and then they get counted on the Monday. Now, it took until late on Monday for it to be counted, because we ended up with over 8,500, or just over £8,000 that was handed over in cash, as well as product that came in as well. And people were still bringing the tins, but there was over £8,000 collected on Sunday. Steve, you were there. You saw what was going on. You saw the hundreds and hundreds of people that were walking past and stopping and making donations into those buckets. And the collectors, I mean, Colin Whittle said his arm is now 3 inches longer because the area where he stands on a match day was just a continuous stream. I bumped into Colin. I saw Colin last night, and then we bumped into each other in the town this afternoon, and we're still talking about it. But that was a fantastic gesture, and for that to carry on all the way through the season up to, they're going to match up to £50,000. So if Newcastle fans can get £50,000 for during the rest of the season, that will be matched by the Rubens Charitable Trust, which is brilliant. I mean, before we got there on Sunday, Steve, there was all sorts of people there. We know, there was the under-23s came down. We met them. They made a donation of their own. 4 of the lads came down representing the rest of the squad, which was brilliant. Steve Harper brought them down, and we spent a good 4 or 5 minutes, if not longer, chatting to them. We got some, we took some photographs so that they could be part of it, which always helps the publicity. But one of the guys who walked past early doors when it was first being set up was Nick DeMarco. we all know Mick DeMarco, the most famous QC in Britain now, certainly the most famous QC on Tyneside, even though it has nothing to do with Tyneside in terms of living here or working here. But Nick DeMarco walked past, and we all know that Nick DeMarco takes photographs. I mean, we've seen that for the last 18 months, haven't we, on Twitter, where every Newcastle fan seems to be following him. And he was taking photographs of the lads and girls setting up the stand. And somebody shouted over and said, "It's Nick DeMarco," and he just waved and he took the photograph and they tried to gesture him over. He was having none of it. No, I'm fine. And somebody else shouted over, and no, I'm just on my way up. I'm just taking some snaps. And then you know what Bill Corcoran's like? Bill shouts, "Hey man, we're Keith Patterson's mate, get yourself over." And his ears pricked up and he went, "Who?" He went, Keith Patterson. He goes, oh, well, if you know Keith, I'll come over. So next thing you know, he comes over and he stands and he gets his photograph taken, which is, again, this is what it's all about. It's great for the social media team that Stuart manages and puts out, for to be able to put a photograph like that out. And that to me, like, summed up the day. Everybody who's there knew somebody else, had heard about the food bank, wanted to be part of it. And I think I don't know about you, Steve, but it was just so great to see all of those buckets lined up at 4:15 before we went in, and the weight of them and the amount of money that was in. And then when the count came in, I don't think you or I or anybody else would have imagined it would have tipped £8,000.
No.
Well, that weekend, that meant £16,000 in the pot that will be used straight away by John and Gemma and the rest of the team, Carol, the Pathway team, etc., up at the West End Food Bank to help our community, people that in our city that have that need. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. You cannot say anything that doesn't grasp the gestures that Newcastle fans have done towards helping their community. And now we've got the football club involved, and we've got people associated with our new owners involved, because they're seeing it and they're buying into it as well. We wish we didn't have to do this on match day. We had a meeting last night where we're talking about it, this very topic. But while there's a need, we and our volunteers will be out there supporting it, and the support that you've given and the rest of the Matters team over the last 12 months. And as you said, come Christmas, we'll have a count of how we've done this year. And I think people will be surprised. Everything has come from either a match day bucket, or the T-shirts have been auctioned, or the events that you've ran and the events that you're currently running. It's great. It's great. And not just you, and not just our NUFC Matters team, or not just the match day collections, but the people who are volunteering, the people who are coming along, the people who are running their own little events and their own collections, whether it be work or putting on something in a pub and then making donations directly. This is what Newcastle fans have been about and will be about. And when people criticise us for what we wear, I wish they would bear in mind that there's such good-heartedness among Newcastle fans, and they just have to look at what we collect on match days for charity. Think about that before you then start criticising Newcastle fans about what they're wearing.
It's interesting talking about this over here. I'm fortunate to live in a place which is a place of, in many ways, excess, and then still talking to patients that can talk to us about, word gets annoyed, does this podcast at the weekend, and it's all about football and blah, 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 blah. And inevitably the food bank comes up, and still now there are patients who are amazed that the need for the food bank, and such a stark need for the food bank at that. And it's humbling to be even just a tiny part of it, but then to spread the word around the world that this is what Newcastle fans have the power to do. It's impactful in ways that I think people don't understand. And the more we can do to help the food bank, the more power to our elbow within the football community we get, and it will inevitably take away some of the sticks and stones that they try and throw.
Yeah, no, I would agree, lads. I would agree. Lots of comments coming in, and as always, apologies we can't get through them all. I did highlight this one. Geordie Tune for Life says, Steve, do you think next year we could have a singing end at the ground to create a better atmosphere? I mean, the atmosphere, Mitch, was superb pre-match. We got into the ground; it was electric, as you would imagine, as you will have seen on television. But as soon as Newcastle scored, the roof came off. And then after that, it was a bit of a damp squib, and Newcastle fans did try their best to lift the team, but it was too little, too late, and the team just self-combusted. It just gave in, and with that went the supporter songs. But the singing area, do you think that would be beneficial moving forward? I mean, there is certain areas which are deemed singing areas these days. Lambize, as we know, didn't like the fact that we had singing areas and dispersed those fans because of the animosity that was being shown towards him and the owner. But do you think there's cause for doing that? Do you think those kind of things are beneficial within football grounds?
This is where I would have loved to have seen us be proactive, but we never would have been under the old owner about getting involved with safe standing trails. I think St James's Park, I think about what Steve saw a few years ago, and then what Steve and I saw not long before I left the UK, in terms of designs and potential things for safe standing areas that could be converted when needed to all seating. I would love to see us as being part of that, because I think that would bring a certain energy back to St James's Park that has been missing. Will a singing area ever replace that? Not for me, really, because again, you'll always end up with people who get tickets for an area that they don't realise is a singing area and won't be happy there for one reason or another, unfortunately. So you can't please everybody. And so that's what I would say is the solution for it, would be to get involved in the safe standing trails. And then a singing area creates itself. The energy and the vibe in that standing area alone, I think, would encourage everybody to go forward. I'm certainly not one for mass organised chanting. The whole megaphone idea that we absolutely roared at eventually, once my brain computed what Derek was coming out with once, was interesting. But I think the singing area per se, yeah, it's not a bad idea. But I think it has also the potential to create problems. It's always a difficult thing about, do the fans lift the players, do the players lift the fans, or is it a strange combination of interaction between the two? It certainly sounded at this end like there was plenty of energy in the ground early on, and even when we were 2-1 down, it felt like, you know, there was still something there, because I think we've had a little bit of hope restored, and I think that over time is what will bring things like that back for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, we've always got, you know, good sponsors on this show, as everybody knows, and Skips and Bins have been with us more or less from the start. And Scott and the lads say just as great as Spider VPN, and they've been there all the way through as well. But Scott from Skips and Bins has made a donation this week to the event that we've got coming up on Friday next week with Gavin Peacock. He has donated a table of 10 for the event, and what he asked us to do was to give it an opportunity to a lucky viewer. Now, the only way we can really do this fairly is if you're a member. Now, I know a lot of the regulars are members who've joined the channel and support the channel a little bit by being a member. So John from QTech, who I know is in the chat, as always, will referee and keep an eye out for the winner. But I'm going to ask a simple question, and that will get you the chance to win a table of 10 at the event. It'll probably be 2 tables of 5 because it is a small venue, but it is a table of 10 that was offered by the lads at Skips and Bins. So I've got a very simple question, requires a very simple answer, and that is all you've got to do. So as long as you are a member, and that means you've got a little circle or sign next to your name, you've got a chance of winning this. So John, I'll leave that to you in the chat to keep an eye on this, and I will give the question, which is very simply: in which game did Gavin Peacock make his last appearance for Newcastle United? And that is, which game did Gavin Peacock make his last appearance for Newcastle United? First person with the answer in the chat that John sees, with who is a member of the channel, you are the winner. If you want to join the channel and be a member, we will have a couple of more giveaways with the other events coming up. Simply join. Just click join. It's on the front page of the channel, and you might get a chance to win something like that. We will wait with bated breath, and I will come back to that at some point. Okay, John, as always, from QTech, also runs his own competition, and this is for 2 tickets for our next home game against Chelsea. And we had a succession of clues. This was the first one: the Black Bull pub on Barrack Road. Yeah, week 2 clue was that other building on Barrack Road. Don't think it must be a university or something, or a solicitor's. Then we have this one, St James's Park there, Sir Bobby Robson's statue. So giving John some work to do here. This is the 4th and final clue. The 3 previous clues are closest to one stand. The person the stand is named after was introduced to the English Football Hall of Fame, but in which year? So the previous clues are closest to one stand. The person the stand is named after was introduced to the English Football Hall of Fame in which year? Great question. You never know what's coming with these. God, it looks like it's got the lads bamboozled. Anyway, so it will be interesting to see what the answer to that is, and we'll keep an eye on the chat with regards to the answers to both of those, and keep an eye on them, John. In fact, John, send us it on WhatsApp because I always miss out on that. Okay, we have had a request of Dave L in the chat to start talking football and looking ahead to tomorrow's game. We always do that in the last half hour, mate, because we do have our regular sections with regards to that. I just want to put this one to bed, lads, and this really is something which we've talked about consistently over the last 15 or so months when we've done this show, and that is Bruce versus Benitez. Now, that is the final figures, and I'm not sure if you've seen this, lads. I'll give you time to digest it. But 2 full seasons for Brucey, 2019 to 2021. 2 full seasons, 2017, 2019 for Benitez. Points, 90. Wins, 23 for Bruce, 24 for Benitez. Goals scored, 84 for Brucey, 81 for Benitez. Goals conceded, 120 for Bruce, 95 for Benitez. Possession, 38% for Bruce, 40% for Benitez. Steve, do those stats surprise you?
They do, actually. Yeah, they do. I mean, I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, well, the points are level. Where are the big differences? Well, the big difference comes obviously in goals conceded, and then in the goals scored. There's a difference of 3 there, but the goals conceded surprises me. You know, Steve Bruce being a defender, Rafa being not even a what you would call it, a La Liga 1 or La Liga A player. But again, the possession, we know that the way that Rafa played and the way that Bruce played. But yeah, they do surprise me, Steve. What we would have liked to have seen there was like how much did they spend during those periods. But you know what? It's like when you compare like a team's performance in one season against the performance in another season. And now we're comparing the managers over 2 seasons, and it's who you're up against. It's where you've come from. It's what was Bruce left by Rafa? How has the squad changed? What's altered subsequently? And it's like when you follow a team and somebody goes, "Oh, this is what the team did compared to last season," and with Newcastle United, it's usually standing still and everybody else is moving forward. You know, so it's. I don't get any satisfaction or any dejection over looking at comparisons between people's records in that respect. They're very much similar. But we all know one the pragmatic way and one which was not pragmatic at all, which was done in a manner that, you know, through no fans in the ground and all of that type of thing. It's chalk and cheese to copy. It's chalk and cheese to compare, and it's usually done because someone wants to prove a point. And I think when that was put up on Sky, it was part of the fans hated Bruce, fans love Rafa, but they don't know what they're talking about because look at the comparison. You know, he got just as many points, he didn't concede as many goals, or he scored more goals, all that type of thing. And it's to create a conversation, it's to create a dialogue, and to create division among those, and to create arguments among the fan base for those who felt that Bruce was doing well and those that felt Rafa was God. You know, that's that's the whole top and bottom of it, Steve, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Mitch, I mean, they're interesting stats. Steve makes a good point. You know, there's no comparison there over money. And we do know that when Benitez left, Ashley really cocked a snoop at him by allowing, you know, people to make a decision on paying £40 million for Joe Linton. And obviously there was money spent on Almiron as well at the same time, and then St. Maximin. So, you know, money was made available. And essentially that was money that if Rafa had spent, he may have spent it differently, and those stats might have been a little bit different, but it was quite close, a lot closer than I thought it would be. If you'd asked me to write those stats down, then I certainly wouldn't have come up with those figures.
I think I'd have got them closer. It's the classic line, though. It's the classic line, lies, damn lies in statistics.
Yeah.
You can make certain things say what you want them to say. I tell you the one you're underestimating there, 25 goals conceded over those 2 terms. That I think equates, by my rough and ready reckoning, is something like 15, 16 goals per season. That's a hell of a lot of goals. And can you remember how many times we got a proper shellacking under Rafa? A 4-1 or a 4-0 or a 5-0. But by God, we've had them under Bruce. And it's the same as when Pardew got to finish 5th, we squeaked there sometimes by the skin of our teeth. It was the 2-1s and the 1-0s and the things where we eke the result out. Our goal difference, I think, finishing 5th was something like +5 or something like that. It was ridiculous. It was horrible. And that came home to roost the following season with the same manager and almost the same group of players, that when we weren't scoring and we couldn't score, we weren't getting the squeaky results, sometimes we were getting an absolute hammering. And that's also what football intelligence tells me. We look organised, we look secured, we look like at least we were hanging on in games or had a chance in games. Whereas under Bruce, with the same amount of possession, we just looked out of the game. And we didn't look organised, and we looked disorganised. And we're 2 goalkeepers, if you combine their stats, we had the goalkeeper that made the most critical saves. You know, and so when your goalkeeper's making that many critical saves, that means the defence isn't stopping the bloody thing before it gets to the goalkeeper. And so I think that's where it is. It's putting these stats into some sort of context. Raw stats without context, you can sort of manipulate them to do all sorts. But that's perfect for the people who want to jump on the anti-Rafa pro-Bruce train. We know what we saw, we know what we were watching, and don't insult our intelligence otherwise. That what we saw under Rafa was a manager who cared, who had a plan, who had an idea of a project that was never really going to get anywhere because he was being stifled by above. Was he ever blessed with the quality of the front three that Bruce was left with in Wilson, Almiron and St. Maximin? No. Now, whether Rafa could have worked with St. Maximin, that's a different matter.
for another show.
Yeah, that's for another show.
For another
because probably, yeah, and so you know, there's other things come into like that. Let's not pretend that Rafa didn't buy some duds with the transfer funds he was given, because he did. But every manager does. So did Robson. So did Keegan. You know, that's going to happen. But I think I would have had them closer. Maybe he's not as close as that. But the one thing that comes home time and time again to me, we had a manager who pretty much won domestically and on the European front nearly every competition you can win.
Yeah.
In the heart of a defence that was revered by many. Why does our defence look so suspect at doing some of the simple things time and time again when that man is the manager? And that doesn't add up for me. There's something wrong there. I know he certainly had problems with certain players. There's 3 that come to mind who I'm damn sure I'm glad to see the back at Steve Bruce. But the rest of them actually seemed like at the end of the day they'd made their peace with all of that. And yet there was still something wrong with the coaching that meant at times we made the simple things at the back look really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And when were they being coached in that? Because it sounds like they've had bloody more days off than Ferris Bueller. You know, it's just ridiculous.
Good line. I wish I'd had that one. Jabsignature.co.uk. I must plug the website. We've been waiting for the launch. In fact, the next man on has been waiting for it so many times. He keeps mentioning it. Here he comes. Here he comes. I'm gonna play his music first. I can see him in the green room. He's looking rather dapper. It is time for Tune Tipster. George, what the hell's he got on the screen? Keith who?
Just thought I'd pay tribute.
How
are you doing?
Good to see you, mate. Good to see you. Tune Tipster, for everybody who's tuning in for the first time, is our resident pundit and resident Joe Linton fan. There he is, modelling his J7 T-shirt, fresh from NUFCmatters.com.
Are you hosting a Clockwork Orange party or something? Bloody hell.
Good to see you. Good to see you, mate. And as always, last half hour, we have a lot of fun. We also talk about the game ahead. So to get us warmed up, we are going to go with Tune Stato.
Hello, lads. So, Steve Bruce is gone. In 84 games with him in charge, Newcastle won 23, drew 23 and lost 38, which makes it a win record for Bruce of 27.4%, a bit better than Steve McLaren, but that's just about it. On Saturday, Graham Jones will be making the debut as a caretaker manager, and Newcastle are the club who have lost the most games as an away team in London, 81. However, Newcastle has won 6 out of the last 12. As you all know, we didn't start the season that well, no win in the first 8, and actually we were the first club to start this Premier League season without a win in the first 8 games. One of the 2 times before we got relegated in 2016, when we won actually our 9th game against Norwich, while in 2018-2019 we won at the 11th attempt, and we managed to survive at the end of the season. Crystal Palace have drawn 5 of their opening 8 games, and they're also unbeaten at home so far this season. They also have won 3 of the last 5 games against Newcastle. However, Newcastle won last year away from home 2-0, maybe you remember the game. So, pretty unpredictable game, but I believe that Crystal Palace are due a draw or a defeat.
Interesting. I hope he's right. Been a weird old hunting ground, Crystal Palace, for us. What's the bookies say then, Joe? What's the forecast for this weekend?
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, it seems really quiet and really calm on here this week. I can't think why. Where do we start? Greatest day of my life supporting Newcastle United last Sunday. Now to do with Amanda, the atmosphere, meeting the Matters crew outside the food bank. I got another back-breaking hug from Chris Hall. And I even got a much sought-after selfie with Q-Tip. That wasn't for me, though. Some fella from Trading Standards asked me to get it for some reason. Can't think why. I am, of course, talking about the fact that Mr. Patterson finally bought me a pint at the 334th time of asking. I thought he'd have bought the other lads one, instead of asking for 5 straws. But you know what he's like. He unfortunately did get caught with the Durham Daft lads all day. I walked all over the town trying to shake him off. And I even ended up on a 600-mile round trip at 1 o'clock in the morning with the ringleader. But that's a story for another week. He was a bit emotional, old Keith, to be honest. Last time I saw dramatics like that, Stephen Taylor got it with the ball against Aston Villa. Poor lad. Bruce is gone. We've been linked with every manager in the world, and we're definitely signing 87 players in January, Mitch. But most importantly, we finally entered Super Club status this week. That's right. I can officially tell you that we've got cleaner windows than Paris Saint-Germain. We're finally winning. So, with windows that we can finally see through, you'd think the bookies would give us a bit of a break this week. Sensibly for them, no such luck, I'm afraid. Newcastle are 3-1 to win at Palace. The draw is 13-5, which I don't think is actually a bad shout. And Palace are favourites at 10-11. If you fancy 1-0 Newcastle, you can get 12-1. 2-1 Newcastle, 14-1. And like me, if you fancy a 1-all draw, you can get a decent 13-2. And if you fancy Palace to keep up our great form and do us 2-0, you can have 9-1 for them. Callum Wilson's favourite to score any time for us at 8-5, followed by the usual 3-1 crew of Joe Linton and ASM. Joe Willock is 10-3 to break his duck this weekend. Food Bank, Mr. Hasty. Wilson sorted us out after about 90 seconds last Sunday, so that was great. There's £51.78 in the pot. And if he scores this week, our fiver will get us to 65 quid. So fingers crossed. In terms of the bet that never wins, the Toon Tickle, I've got Man City and Chelsea both to win, both scoring 2 goals at least each. And Newcastle and Palace to draw at 7-1. The books basically closed on the next manager of Newcastle. That's Fonseca at a 2-5 now. Interestingly, Graham Jones to get the job on a permanent basis is 20-1. And on a serious note, I know I like coming on here and having a bit of crack, but I just wanted to say that for me, the most important thing that happened last week was us seeing inside the ground, unfortunately, the importance of CPR. So I just wanted to say to everyone, if you can get trained, please do, because we can make a difference and save a life. So I hope you get well soon, Bonnie lad, and please bet safe, everybody. Thank you.
Great stuff, mate. As always, thank you for your tribute to Keith, and thanks to Keith for all his efforts. He did say when he came onto the show that that would be the end after the takeover, and he wanted to get back to going out on a Friday and enjoying himself. But nice to see he's been in the chat tonight, speaking to everybody.
That's the last time I'm mentioning him, Steve. He's dead to me now.
That's good. That's good. News on the food bank T-shirt, and as always, Houstun Mag George Hayes is at it again, and Kenny Ranson. A big thank you to him as well. They have said that George said that he, as usual, £150 he went to. £100 was the winning bid up until he bid, so it's £150. He'd won. Kenny says if John from QTech will do 2, he will match the £150. As long as he can do 2 T-shirts. So do 2 T-shirts, John. That's £300 we have made from those 2 T-shirts. So thanks very much, lads. Another 300 quid into the food bank pay this weekend. And Steve Hasty, both of those guys, so I'm sure you will be able to contact both of them for us, which will be fantastic. Okay, we got 23 minutes left, and you all know the drill. We all have a laugh at 2 look-alike. Now, most of you know me. I like to have a laugh, and I can always have a laugh at my own expense. I've had a little bit of stick, and the reason I've had stick because at the age of 49, I finally had to join the gang, the old man gang, whatever you want to call it, and here they are. Okay, there are my glasses. Now I've got 2 pairs. I went to Specsavers, and I've got 2 pairs, 2 for the price of 1. Now, I do like the cylindrical look. I am a Breaking Bad fan, so the old Walter White situation hasn't gone unnoticed. But of course, what you don't expect is good friends to start having a pop at you. Now, that includes the NUFC Matters family. Now, I liked, and that's all I did, I liked somebody putting a lookalike up of young Holly on Twitter. And I didn't use it on lookalike, which is what the person wanted us to do. And I know it's difficult to picture these things, so I will show you it. It was this. Right? Now, this is a cartoon character from American Dad. So there's Holly on the right, just in case you didn't realise that, drinking a brown ale, as she does in her bedroom. And there on the left is a character called Deborah Hyman. who's an American dad. So I didn't show that. And of course, apologies, Holly, for putting that out there. But then Holly decides to have a pop at me and start laying all kinds of comparisons down. So that's where we're at with tonight's lookalike. Keith might not be here, but it's me who is actually getting hammered and not Steve Hasty tonight. So without further ado, we'll begin at the beginning and watch how this progresses. This was the first one. Tom Dixon, who's really getting a taste for this. Al Walid and Joe Linton. Poor Al Walid. I know which one's the better footballer. I got sent this, and I can't remember who it was by. That's awful. The Steve Hasty Appreciation Group. So basically, they've just used some kind of app to put blonde hair on me and some on Mitch, and that's just weird. That's got a Halloween feel to it. Thank you for sending that. I can't remember who it was. I'm still trying to work this one out from Paparazzi.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Am I being thick?
I'm trying to work. I'm
look alike. Is that Mike Ashley on the left with his Cockney Mafia? That's both Mike Ashley. Two Mike Ashleys. I don't know what I'm missing, lads. Am I missing something?
You need a pair of specs, Steve.
I'm missing that seeing your look alike. He's get on with it.
Yeah.
Stop rushing us. Right. So anyway, getting on to Holly. She sends us this. No, this was somebody else who sent us this. Holly's is later. Sorry. This is from the Heroni on Twitter. They added a Steve Wraith filter on Snapchat. Okay, so I've got no idea what that person actually looks like. I mean, they could actually look like that. So then Holly sends us this. Right. Holly actually looks like she's grown a beard there, by the way. So that's where it all starts. I then got sent this by Danny Arthur. Copying Holly in. I then got sent this. There then started to become a Harry Potter theme to this. After Breaking Bad, of course. Al Shamari, thanks for that, from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Say my name, Steve Wraith. Okay, cheers. Chris Bevan then said, Gryffindor. Okay. Yeah. I don't think Stuggarv's made too much of an effort. He just did that. Just a squiggle. I quite like this comparison from Dave.
Of course you would.
John Lennon, of course, working class hero. I like that one. And then there was numerous of these. Jacob, I've just made a thing for next week. Toon lookalike. Yeah, I don't mind the Walter White one. I really don't. That's not a bad one at all. Mark Byers, yeah, got that one. Harry Potter, as I say, was a running theme. And there's Holly putting it out. It was Holly who started that one. So, Holly, I hope you're happy, causing all these pylons. And she did laugh at this one. This is from Alan McKenzie. I thought that was brilliant. Gandhi. Often been called a peacemaker, mate. I've often been called a peacemaker. Okay, so coming into the back end of them now. And we had this one from Sam Chipperfield. He says, I've just seen Steve Hasty this morning. Steve, we're in a rush. We had this one from Tom Dixon.
Tom loves me, doesn't he? He loves me.
This one was brilliant. From 100% Mags, he went, I don't mean this to be in bad taste after the poor fan. He says, here's a Toon lookalike. This was the policeman from the Spurs game. He says he looked a bit like Mitch, which I've got to say, he's got that look. He's got the look of your Mitch, which is pretty good. But yeah, good one. This one from Rocky Toon, Step Doing Son.
Oh, right, okay.
Very subtle.
I thought that was brilliant. That could have won. Then we've got Step 2 and Son. Again, I've got no idea who sent that, but I did laugh at it. It was a good one. Now, this isn't a dig at one of our rivals, and please forgive us because I can't remember his name, but he is another podcaster on the Newcastle timeline. And I got sent this. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the guys from Newcastle Fans TV. Somebody will have to tell us who it is.
Yeah.
And as I say, we're not having a dig at here, but somebody sent that in as a lookalike. I think that's brilliant. So yeah, pretty good.
Met lad last week, canny lad, good lad, and it's a good photo.
Yeah. Thanks to Stunner Bulls, Olivia as well, young Olivia. Well, we'll get her on the show at some point. She says I look like Jason Statham.
That's why you're going to get her on the show.
Exactly.
Olivia, I think Olivia's 8, but she's got good eyesight.
She needs to go to Specsavers, doesn't she?
She doesn't need to go to Specsavers at all. Leave the lass alone. She's 8-year-old. She'll come on and defend herself. Now, this was sent by Jed, Steve's brother. Now, this was highlighted to me from Paul Durham, but Newcastle ladies, circa 1928. Hughie Gallagher's at the back left, and his great aunt Sal is the captain with the ball. Who is that in the front row on the bottom left? That's Steve Hasty.
Not a distant relative, Steve.
Steve, that's you.
That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
That's brilliant. Honestly, people, I'll leave that on the screen so you can zoom in, get up to your television, do whatever you need to. That is Steve Hasty.
God, that's unbelievable.
That is superb. So thank you for sending that. And Jed did highlight that. So thanks, Jed. This one, I'm sure we've had this one before. David Warner.
Yeah, we've had that one before.
Yeah, but it's always worth getting it because it makes people forget about me wearing glasses. This one, Dr. Squat Pump, Steve Wraith loves bread. Had the pleasure of holding last night's kiddush with my family. That's weird. That it does look like me. It does look like me, to be honest. Okay, last two. Finishing off. This one from P. Maxi. This is one of my dear friend's husband who gets stepped many times when Rafa was at Newcastle. I do think that's good. And this one is the winner, and it's from Jacob, and he says, Steve Hasty, Jim McDonald in their younger days. Very good. Keep your lookalikes coming in. We'll love getting them. We've had plenty, I think, already sent over the last couple of days, but there's still plenty of time to get a few sent in. Any that came in today, I'm afraid, didn't make it. I'll keep them for next week. But as always, keep your two lookalikes coming in. And as always, Julie Baker's favourite part of the show. Troll of the week. I've had a few, again, as normal. And this one tickled me. It was a couple of weeks ago, this one. And I forgot to put it up, but this was very funny. Dean says, watch Steve Wraith's show, mate. Paul Watson says, I'd rather have a wank using sandpaper. Brilliant. Yeah, you cannot beat a critic. You cannot beat a critic. All in good taste. All in good taste. Okay, last 10 minutes, lads. And Newcastle, Crystal Palace away tomorrow. We've already heard what Andres had to say. He's got a little fancy maybe for a Newcastle result. We've heard what Toon Tipster's got to say. There's a little bit of money to be had there as well. Tell us what you want to see from Graham Jones's first team selection and what you think the score is going to be.
Whew. Well, I want to see something like we saw in the first 10 minutes being transported into the last 80. That's what I want to see, because quite frankly, I mean, the guy behind me, after we scored after 1 minute 58 seconds or whatever it was, and within 2 minutes he was shouting, "Oh, yeah, Bruce, let's go and 6 at the back. You're going to have to protect this." You know, when you've got fans like that behind you shouting that, you just know where people are starting to see where this game's heading. So I want to see that organisation that you can have and that drive and determination in the first 10 being, like I say, transferred into the final 80. I want to see a little bit more cohesion. I want to see certainly a tighter defence. I want to see a midfield that's working harder. I want to see a midfield that's working harder together. I want to see outlet balls. I want to see the ability for the two central defenders to see the space and to be able to hit those passes if that's what they need to do. I don't want to see, as we've seen constantly for the last 2 years, the ball going back and back and back, and this restart and rebuild. I want to see some cohesion between defence and midfield, between midfield and attack. I want to see that transitional play. You know, I don't want much, do I? You know, and I want to see goals as well. I want to see players. I mean, how's Joe Linton 3-1 to score? You know, that the guy's got what, 4 in 70 games or something now, and how's he still sitting there as our second highest, you know, potential goal scorer, along with a couple of others on 3-1? That baffles me. The man couldn't hit a barn door at 5 paces, for God's sake. So there's an awful lot I want to see, but I want to see something different. I want to see players playing to that potential, because if there's potential in that squad, it's been well hidden by some of them. You know, I only saw one leader on the pitch last week for long stretches of the game, and that was Matt Ritchie, who was trying to drive and trying to encourage, trying to cajole and push players into, you know, this sort of, like, you know, get the energy going, get the motivation. I want players to be motivated themselves. The number of players who I thought couldn't motivate themselves last week in front of what was probably the noisiest St James's Park that I've heard in 20 years. That scares me. That worries me. So let's start to show some backbone, lads. Let's start to show some grit. And instead of nutting people in the changing room, let's start using that energy in a far, far better way. Come on, let's get stuck into it. Let's transport it and give the fans what some of us certainly believe you've got. You've got the talent. You can go out there and you can do it. But let's work as a team, all 11 here. Passing the ball, moving the ball, transitional play, working for each other. That's what Jones is going to be saying, and hopefully he's got it tight. We'll probably get into the lineups in the next 30 seconds or so from the other lads, because I quite frankly I don't know which team he's going to put out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just want to say as well, before I forget, the 2 winners of the competitions, Baker Boy, well done. You've won the table of 10 for the Gavin Peacock event, which is next Friday. And D. Tate got the answer right for the Chelsea ticket. So Baker Boy's question was, which game was Gavin Peacock's last in a black and white shirt? That was Leicester at home. In that infamous game where we were 6-0 up and then went on to win by 7 goals to 1 in 1993. And D. Tate got the year right. It was Jackie Milburn, of course, who was installed into the Football Hall of Fame in 2006. So D. Tate, you have won the tickets for the Chelsea game, which is, of course, next weekend. Well done. More chances to win next Friday on the 3 Amigos. Okay. Joe, over to you. What do you want to see from Graham's team selection, and what are you going for tomorrow?
I'm really interested in it, Steve, to be honest. Almost like the shackles are off, and what's he got to lose? You know, I think it is pretty obvious, albeit he's now joined the betting, that he is only going to keep the seat warm. But why not? Why not see something different? So I want to see all of those things that I won't ask Steve Hasty to repeat. But I want to see some brave selections. I wouldn't mind seeing people like Lewis. I wouldn't mind seeing people like Shah. For some reason, they haven't been playing. I'd love to see somebody with a clue of what to do with Miggy Almiron, because I think, Bruce, it's been really apparent to me that he literally hasn't had a clue what to do with the guy. And I don't want to see us revert the type. I don't want to see us playing cagey. I don't want to see us playing sideways. I certainly don't want to go 1-0 up and then sit back and hope that we can get through the next 75 minutes unscathed. I think this is a real opportunity. And one of the things that I hope Graham Jones is going to do is say, hey, if you want to be part of this revolution, go and prove it. And I don't think he's got to say a great deal, much more than that. We're not fancied at the bookies. I was expecting to see a bit more of a price change, actually. But as I said in the show a few weeks ago, I think the one thing we can't take our eyes off is the fact that we're second bottom in the league and we're not very good. But if we couldn't get up and we couldn't get the 3 points last Sunday, as Steve said, in what was a wonderful St. James's Park, hopefully we'll do it with a change of manager. If not, at what point do we start to get really worried? But I'll say tomorrow, I fancy 1-1. I don't think we'll get beat, but are we good enough and are we brave enough to win? I don't know. So I'll sit on the fence and say 1-1.
Okay. Mitch, what are you hoping to see? What are you expecting to see? And what's your prediction for tomorrow?
I'd like to see an announcement that we've got the permanent managerial situation and structure sorted out as soon as physically possible. I've got concerns in that direction at the moment, and it doesn't help. The situation, though, gives Graham Jones a free pass for at least 2 games. And like Joe, I would like to see some bravado. I'd like to see some people brought back into the fold and given a go, because what have we got to lose? We know we'll get more out of, or we should, if they're happy to see the back of Bruce, get more out of Fraser, more out of Richie, and more out of Dwight Gale. But given that Dwight Gale's also come to blows with Jones over his attitude, who knows, really? But I would like to see more out of a lot of people. I think, again, Joe's on the nail on the head with what do you do with Almiron? How do you square that particular circle? What I'd love to see is just a squad who are playing knowing they can be involved in a genuine football revolution and showing us as the fans they want to be part of that revolution. And the way you show us you're part of that revolution is go out there and do a bloody good job. Do what you're asked of, give it your all, play with a little bit of a free pass. You don't get that often in life. You don't get it often in life, a chance to say, right, just do your thing. Show us what you can do. So grasp it with 2 hands and show it. Because the previous managers wouldn't been unable to motivate you. And you all seem to run to the coach for advice, and you all seem to run to that coach for everything. He's the only one who's put an arm around you in the last few weeks. The other one's been wandering up and down the bloody touchline looking like he was deciding what to buy from the kebab shop on the way home. This one actually gives a monkeys. This one actually cares. He said it. We started the show off with this. So do you care? Do you care as much as that?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
That's what I want to see.
Can you imagine being a professional footballer wearing a black and white shirt at the start of this, the start of what's happening, and in 15 years' time, that kid turns around and says, Dad, you used to play up at Newcastle. What was it like? And he goes, I don't know, son, because I left straight away because I couldn't be arsed. or the Matt Yodas felt as though I couldn't be arsed. Yeah. So I wasn't actually, but I played for Newcastle. And you go, but you weren't there. You weren't part of it, were you? And that's what's going to happen.
If we are close as some people suggest, and I know other people are suggesting it's not, to making a particular individual that full-time appointment, I suspect that individual will be at the game tomorrow. And he'll be bloody watching it. And if it's who I think it is, he'll be watching everything you do, even down to the way you bloody adjust your shorts and fart. And so these things matter more than some people realise. I think some of our squad just genuinely haven't realised that. There is a genuine ability to revert the tape. We did that against Tottenham when Shelvey came on. Who could have predicted 2 daft cards from that player? Who could have predicted that? Nostradamus couldn't have predicted that. It's frustrating. And I get that the players have been frustrated. They must have been throughout all of it. And this has all been dropped on them the way it was dropped on everybody else. And I get that there's got to be that settling in period. But I think the position we are in, we don't have the luxury of points and games to play by effing about. And it needs to be sorted out as soon as possible. And Graham Jones, it looks like, has 2 free hits to generate us some points from somewhere and hopefully our first win. Lads, you've all got now to lose. Go out and play like people who are now to lose, because people with now to lose genuinely are often very dangerous people indeed.
100%. Thanks, Holly, for your kind comments. It's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. I'm sure you can tell us off on Sunday. All I'm going to say is good luck to Bonner and the lads. We've got a good felon lad, the felon lad in charge of the team tomorrow. I'm sure he'll do us proud. It'll be a proud day for him, a proud day for his family, and just hope 100% that the team listen to Mitch's little bit there, because I know a few of the players do watch the programme now and then, and hopefully they will take that onto the pitch tomorrow. The shackles are off, go for it, and give Bonner a good result, because that's all we really want.
He deserves that.
We need 3 points. I'm back tomorrow morning. I'm not travelling to Palace tomorrow. I'm having a weekend off, half-term approaching as well with the kids. So I'm not going to Palace, and I'll be here instead. 11 o'clock in the morning. Me and Mick Lowes will be looking ahead to that. We'll be hearing what he's got to say about Steve Bruce. I know that he's been quite open on social media this week. So join me and Mick Lowes on Sunday, and then I'll be back with Holly on Sunday night. And I have pre-recorded a cracking show with Ben Jacobs. And those of you who were on Twitter will have seen the wonderful thread he put together about what he sees for the future. Ben's been a great contributor to this programme over the last 12 months. And I just wanted to talk through the thread with him and what he thought about the takeover. As always, even though we had nobody watching live, Ben did struggle to answer more than 5 questions because his answers are so bloody long. But it's a great podcast all the more. So well worth looking at. And please follow Stream Islam on Twitter, and you will get the link for this. The Muslim Geordie podcast. I'll just type that into YouTube. I am going live on there tonight at 9 o'clock. Looking forward to it. Lots to talk about. Big shout out to the lads for inviting us on. Really looking forward to going on to that. So that is at 9 o'clock tonight, which means you can all go and watch Coronation Street and find out what's happening with that hole, including you, Holly. I know you're such a big fan now. Joe, Steve, Mitch, and of course, Andrea. Thanks everybody for pitching in. I hope you've enjoyed the 3 Amigos. It's good to be back. Have a good weekend, and don't let the football spoil it.
Take care, guys.
Cheers, everyone.
Critics